recycle. He's never going to extend. And I like this book. I really love that book. But I'm interested to see. I don't say they drug for the family, but they were very fancy. But I will read this book, give it a chance and see. You know, Kindle, I downloaded Fairy. So I have the first 3 books of those, which I do plan to read soon. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Stace. I want to get on here and talk to you guys about the book that I just finished up last night. But first, let's talk about my Kindle. Yes, I do own a Kindle. I told y'all before I have the original Kindle. Let's see. The original one from 2007. Some people were born 2007. I'm not going to say how old I am. But this is the original one. I rarely use it. It's a dinosaur. But I do have the Paperwhite. You'll have to read up on them and see what's the difference between them. My experience, I think that one, you need a reading lamp. This one is self-lit, the Paperwhite. It reads like the book. So I do have unlimited. So I try to read my book, at least one book on unlimited a month, since I'm paying $13 for it. Yeah. So it's a monthly subscription. You get up to 20 different titles. They give you magazines, ebooks, audiobooks, comic books, and there's no due date. You also get special pricing with Amazon Books sometimes with the unlimited subscription. You can read from your Kindle or you can read from your device that has the app for a Kindle. And I recommend getting one on Prime Day or when they have like a day in July or whatever the early Christmas sales. They're under $100. If not, you're gonna pay over $150. So I think I got this Paperwhite on a sale with a bundle on Prime for like $80, $89. I don't remember, but it's pretty new. I don't know what edition this is, but I read this book that I'm going to talk to you guys about on my Kindle. It was called, I don't know if you can get it and see, The Briar Club. The Briar Club, this book, it is based in this house where people are living in like a hostel or some type of sister house. And I would say it is a bunch of characters, teenage boy, little sister, and adult women living in this house. A few male characters too, but let's get into it. So the Briar House, it was by Quinn. So Quinn, I don't know what she's known for. I never read anything by her before. But this book, it was a historical fiction. It was pitched to me as a historical thriller. So the book club at the bookshop, they decided to pick this book as their thriller pick for this month before they ease into fall. And this was on my to-be read list because of the ratings on Goodreads. And I don't typically go by the numbers, so that doesn't speed up or get me to read the book faster than what I'm going to read it before. This one was highly rated. I'll say it had like 40,683 ratings, and it was a 4.5 star. So I'm like, okay, what is this about? It is very highly rated. Everyone's seen the book everywhere. It's a beautiful cover of this book. It's like a golden color book with like a keyhole in it with a cutout. And it has like some type of like flowers in it. And it says the Briar Club. I started this book September 4th. I finished it September 10th. It was 432 pages. So it gave me about 6 to 7 days to finish this book. Thriller. To me, it did not read as a thriller. It read more as a historical fiction. It says a historical mystery, but no, I ain't gonna say what I really thought, but I'm gonna say what I really thought. I thought this book, she should have wrote a cookbook to go with this one. She ended up putting different recipes in this book. They had like 7 or 8, 9, 10 different recipes sporadically thrown throughout the chapters. So that was unique, but it was a little redundant for me because I was like, okay, why she keep putting recipe? Okay, whatever. The recipe is her thing. She want to put in there, so be it. What I liked that it was a murder house. It wasn't heavily mentioned a lot, though. I wish that she would have fed more into that, the murders in the house versus like the politics in the time. So it was all over the place for me. The chapters were very long. It was 40 pages in the first chapter. I don't mind it, but once you start getting long-winded and then you throw in a recipe and how to cook each step, I have recipe books. I know how to make fried chicken. I know how to make gumbo. Her gumbo recipe in this book is a spoiler. Do not put 3 cups of okra in your gumbo. That is too much okra. Too much okra.
Another disclaimer, do not put jalapenos in your gumbo.
40 pages in chapter 1. What wasn't my cup of tea? Of course, it was 1950s. Racism in America. They had homophobia in this book. The themes of sexism. The woman should be in the kitchen, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids. All of that. Domestic violence was in this book. That's a trigger warning. There was a race riot in that club, the chicken club. The overall, I'll tell you my rating. And the spice level in this, I'll give it a half of a spice out of 5 because there wasn't much spice into this book. So let me read the synopsis because I didn't read the synopsis before I even started this one. But I'm going to read it right now. She is basically balancing out the historical observation of racism and homophobia and political prosecution in this novel. So when you read it, you'll feel like, to me, I feel like I was reading a history book. And I love the History Channel. I do love the History Channel, and I appreciate historical fiction. But this book, Washington, D.C., 1950. Everyone keeps to themselves at a Briarwood house, a down-at-the-hills, all-female boarding house, in the heart of the nation's capital where secrets hide between white picket fences. But when the lovely, mysterious widow Grace March moves into the attic room, she draws her oddball collection of friends, of her neighbors, to an unlikely friendship. Posed with beauty, Fliss, whose facade of the perfect wife and mother covers gaping inner wounds. A police daughter, Nora Woods, who finds herself entangled, a shadier gangster. Frustrated baseball star, Beatrice, whose career has come to an end, along with the Women's Baseball League of World War II. So it's given like a league of their own in that time frame. Gun-ho Arlene, who has thrown herself into the McCarthy's Red Scare. Grace weekly attic room diner parties and window brewed sun tea becomes a healing balm on all of their lives. She hides a terrible secret of her own. When a shocking act of violence tears the house apart, the Briar Club women who decides once and for all who is the true enemy in their midst, capturing the paranoia of the McCarthy era and invoke the challenging roles of women in the post-war America. The Briar Club is an intimate and thrilling novel of secrets and loyalty put to test. And a beautiful foil cover is in the first edition if you care about that. Whatever. So I don't care about the cover, I care about the story. Well, I do judge books by the cover. So I probably would have picked this book up if I saw it in the store and not read anything about it, because it's a pretty book. So, yes. With that being said, this book is it was interesting, and it is gripping, and you want to know what happens. But I think for the most part, this book, it took too long to get to it. You know, like by it being such a long-winded book. She mentioned communists and communism so many times, and in the pages you're reading about it, and then it just started to be an ear sore when she starts dwelling on the communists and the communism and the politics and the president, and going into the club, and there's a Negro person dancing and a black woman singing. It was just like, okay, lady, like, all right, I get what you're doing. And maybe I personally wasn't in that target audience. That's what I granted to. I wasn't offended. It's just that I was not who she was reading to. Like, I'm not the person that she was technically trying to get to read this book. And I don't think she cared either, because all of the reviews and everybody else loved it. It's just me, or I couldn't see another ethnic male reading this book and enjoying it. I mean, prove me wrong, but it just wasn't fitting. Feminist women coming together like Brewster's Place and that type of trope. So if that's your thing, that's your thing. Stay-at-home moms who just want a story that's long-winded to speak to them, this might be a book for you. So it was challenging getting through each chapter. And then I'm getting to a point where I'm like, okay, why is this still going? She could have broke it up a little better as far as her writing style. So the title, the Briar Club. And maybe she could have called it the Supper Club or the Briar Supper Club. Like supper, you know how they have the supper club and everyone cooks something and they keep it going. Some of my clients, they do participate in supper club. So I can see that being a thing. And it's like, oh, it's so nice there in supper club. I just found out what supper club was. So I'm like, okay. It's like book club, but you do like food and recipes and everybody come together and they eat. And in this hostel house, that's kind of what they did. So this book, to me, it was like a cookbook. She could have put that in the back of the book, or she could have put it separately, or a workbook with the recipes in it and just briefly mentioned it, but not give you step by step how to make a gumbo, how to make the meatballs, how to make the sun tea. Step by step by step is a lot for a chapter, like to be in a chapter. And I read most of those recipes, but I skipped through them because I'm like, I want to read the novel. I don't want to read how to make this right now. Like, let's get through this book. So would I read it again? No. Would I recommend it? No. The characters that resonated with me, there was a kid named Pete. He was young. He was just figuring things out, taking care of his sister because she was getting bullied, and he was coming of age, so he was attracted to some of the tenants, and he was helping his mom keep the business going, and he was pretty cool, but he didn't really, he resonated with me. He was just a good kid. All of them probably pretty much can stand alone and have their own novel at this point. Grace could have had her own novel. Nora could have had her own novel. Pete and his family could have had their own novel. Like, like as much details as she put into each one of these characters. And I know I'm missing some of them, but they could have been a standalone story within a story in their own novel. But I digress. My opinion about the writing style, I didn't care for it. Not as a thriller. Definitely not a thriller. 1 out of 5. She shouldn't even mention thriller in that book at all. Relatability, like I said, we know what happened in the 50s, and this is a tone of an elitism. Like, we know some people are entitled, some people didn't experience the harshness in the 50s, and she just like glorified and glamorized that part. Originality, I say it's pretty original, but it does, she said in the back that she was watching the Americans during COVID and stuff, and she got inspired to write a book about that time frame and whatever was going on with the Russians and Americans during that time. Readability, no. 1 out of 5. Personal impact, none at all. 1 out of 5. The plot, I didn't even care no more. At the end, I didn't even care who got murdered, because she started off the book with the murder happening in the first chapter, but then she started like moving around and doing something completely different with the story. And then you'll get a little taste of what's going on in the house with the murder and investigation, and then you'll go back to the women's lives. So I think the plot didn't flow. Like, for me, it didn't flow. So I'm giving this book like a half star. 1 star out of 5 if I had to. My biggest takeaway, I mean, I don't really have much to say about this, but it was very political. They had sexism in it, and if you are in the mood for that, go for it. Domestic violence, abuse, murder, race riot, sexism, homophobia, racism, prejudice. Like, it was a lot of prejudiceness in this book too. So I would not recommend it to any of my friends. This might be your thing. This might be something that you absolutely would appreciate if that's what you are into, or you want that type of historical fiction. And maybe I'm just in a mood because I read it on a Kindle and not the physical book. Maybe I would have did better on a physical book, but I did try to listen to the book too on the audiobook, and it just wasn't, I mean, it just wasn't typically easy to read. So, and maybe if you're a history buff too, like a history teacher, or you're in college and you're studying that time frame, it might actually work for you too. So that is my biggest take. So if you want to be refreshed on the 1950s and American women and those type of tropes, you might enjoy it. But to me, it just was not a book that I would want to read again or recommend to my friends. Yeah. So that's that. The Briar Club. Can I pull it up? Take a picture with this Briar Club book on my Kindle. I don't know if y'all can see it, but here it is. The Briar Club book. Cover page. Alright, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good morning or a good night. Good day. Thank you.